early 1980s, when during the time where the, the, the Iranian students had taken hostages of the American embassy in Iran in 1980, or was it 79 or 80, something like that. So one time I got pulled over by a police officer for some on a weekend. I guess he may have had suspicion of me drinking and driving or whatever, or what he did, just stop me because of my color. I don't know, but he pulled me over, and of course I gave him my driver's license, registration, all that stuff. He made me come out of the car. He had me put my hand on the, on the dash, on the hood. Body searched me. Asked me if I was drinking. I said I was not. Gave me a alcohol test. I fully complied. Walking tests, and also breath analyzer, things like that. And so then he comes and tells me, "Are you from Iran?" I said, "No, sir, I was not." I said, He said, I think you're from fucking Iran. Why don't you go back to your own country?"
In this progressive country, we overlook the correlation between two of the most prominent divides in America, the socioeconomic divide and the racial divide. In this day and age, racism is considered and accepted as a societal truth that applies to most Americans of color. We also recognize the different opportunities and standards of life that are present between the lower and higher economic classes. Although we seem to understand these concepts separately, what is not as deeply understood is the effects racism has on people with different financial statuses. In our society, rich people are granted superiority over poor people, just as white people are given irrefutable privilege over black people. But in this documentary, we sought out to determine how this overall treatment contrasts when, for example, the person of color is rich rather than poor, or vice versa.
Yes, racism exists. It's different in different parts, different places, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. But it exists in some form.
Some, yes.
Yes.
I do believe it does, yes. I don't think so.
Do you think it's because you're Caucasian?
Probably. Not necessarily are my options, but I felt like while being employed that I felt some form of racism. For instance, where I felt like I had been with a company for a certain amount of years and I should have had a promotion, and I don't know if it was just due to the fact that I was probably one of maybe 30 employees in the office that was a minority. I was the only one, if not maybe another one. There was like two of us, and I just felt like maybe we weren't getting promoted just due to the fact that we weren't the norm, obviously Caucasian. And I don't know if it had something to do with also being a female as well, but being a different color and also a female, that's two strikes as opposed to the average person.
Oh yeah, all the time. Over in North Dakota, a racist state, that I could not grow in my medical billing business because of the color of my skin. They treated me horribly. So I moved here to Seattle because if I wouldn't be able to get clients over there because I'm native. They don't judge you on your work or your skills. I don't think I could get doctors for clients over there like I could here in Seattle.
It hasn't affected me personally that much. It did a little bit, but not a lot. But I know of many friends and colleagues that went through a lot more racism than I did. I was lucky enough to be in business of my own at a very early age. So I didn't really work for somebody else too long in my life. But initially when I was, it's always harder, It's always harder when you're different. And people are more comfortable with their own kinds in general, and so there is always an adjustment period, is always a proving. They trust their own kind more, and you always have to prove yourself a lot more when you are of a different race in a particular country.
When I moved to North Dakota, I didn't move there, I visited there. And I asked, my kids were smaller, we would get treated funny, like our money thrown at us, and we just got treated different. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was me at first, and it kept happening with store clerks and different situations when I was there. And so I had to go ask around at the Indian school what that was and why we were getting treated horribly, my family and I. And they said it was because we were Native. And I said, what does that have to do with anything? They said, that's just how it is here. I go, that's not real, is it? And they said, yeah. And I was there for 4 or 5 years, and I had to find out from experience. And Natives and Caucasians are just like, it's kind of secret and subtle, but I've asked around a lot, and Natives can't get jobs there. Like, I know people with master's degrees and PhDs, and they can't get jobs in North Dakota. They have to move to the reservation or move out of state to get a good job because they will hire them there. There's no Native American foster parents, there's no Native American senators, reps, there's no Native American judges, no Native American social workers. We're just seen as an underclass citizen over there. And that's why I couldn't succeed in my medical billing business, because I would never get clients because of the color of my skin. And that's how I got treated when I got contracted there. I was asked by both races, Natives and whites, how did you get this job? And everyone was shocked that I was working at the North Dakota State Capitol, contracting for my business, and I didn't think of it at the time, like why that was. But later, I found out the hard way, there was no dark-skinned people up there, only me. So I kind of started to figure out that it's not common, for a Native to have that kind of a position. It's really secret though. They're really discreet about it, both races. They don't really talk about it. Me, I would always file complaints, like if I was being treated bad and I knew it was racist, I would at least, even if I couldn't do anything about it, I would at least complain, to a supervisor. And a lot of the head corporate people in those companies didn't know that was going on until I reported it. And so they started to deal with it because they didn't even know it was an issue because no one said anything. In North Dakota, Native don't say anything, they just take it. I don't think I would have been successful there in my music or my medical billing. That's why I moved here to Seattle.
Racial issues at all that I had to overcome. I mean, you deal with them daily, and they're still there. Maybe not as prominent as they were in the 60s, but they're still there. I don't know if I've overcome any obstacles, but, I can sit next to a white person. I don't have to sit at the back of the bus, but, they're still there, absolutely.
Basically, it's the trust. People don't trust you as easily. People look down upon you. I have, in certain circumstances, people told me to go back to my own country. People are, you encounter jealousy after your success because they see if you succeed, the majority finds that, that envious and have issues with that. So you have to win over everybody, and you have to prove every single day, and you have to be focused, you have to work harder than everybody else, and you have to be smarter than everybody else. People, as far as some examples of people would assume that you don't know because you have an accent, you've come from a different country. The first impression is always that that you are not as smart or you don't know enough, and because you're different, the road and obstacles are much more tougher.
Not while applying for a job, but I did have some racist incidents at my employment. I remember one time there was a Christmas party, company Christmas party, and I went there with my husband, and my boss actually, after the event, said to me, "I didn't know your husband was black." And I just laughed it off, but I said, "Oh, is he?" Just to be a little facetious, but something like that should have never occurred.
No.
I think it would be an issue. I think generally, not for me personally, but maybe indirectly, maybe with friends who might get treated racist, but I think I might be more privileged than others, that didn't have money. So, maybe.
After achieving success, it has been a lot easier, but along the ladder of success, I had to face racism and deal with racism all along the journey, and it's something that I never let it bother me. I just accepted it as whatever is happening is just part of the culture we are in, and you just have to prove yourself. I knew I had to work harder than anybody else. I had to be smarter than anybody else, and if I did that and I was focused, that success would come my way, and I would be able to achieve my goals.
I would just say I'm older German.
Typically, the majority, which would be, I guess, Caucasian. The racism, discrimination is different with all different status of society, and I felt it, from lower class to middle class to upper class at the various situations.
Well, I am white, but because my husband was black, I believe still some. I think I received some from both white and black.
I personally find discrimination with black people, my own people. I find discrimination with white people, Asian people. It's not necessarily one specific race. I think, if anything, I think growing up, I definitely, elementary and middle school, predominantly middle school, I'd say I received a lot more racism from black people. Just that I was too white, or I was too light, or I thought I was acting white. So, and they felt that I was acting like I was better than them. So.
No, like I said, is that I made a point that to not let that bother me, because if it would bother me, it would slow me down. The resentment is a loss of intelligence. I just wanted to be focused. I wanted to move forward. I didn't want to carry resentment, because if I'm resenting, I'm suffering, and those are the cards I'm dealt with, and I'm dealing with it. And whatever happens. I knew I was gonna succeed, and I had my eye on my goal, and I never really looked back at what circumstances, what happened to me, or whether I was a victim or not. It's past. It's over. I'm not gonna worry about it.
No, I was bitter at first, but now it's the mindset. It was taught. They were taught that as kids, and they were taught to hate. They were taught bigotry. It's something that's taught. You're not born a racist. And no, I'm not bitter, because that small-mindedness, racism, even from Native American, natives are racist too. So it's a mindset.
Personally, because I didn't take all of this personal, I feel like I treat everybody the same, and I treat people of all race and color same. As you know, when I was in the entertainment industry, some of my biggest heroes were black people, and when I went about, and then in my real estate world, I ran across some very smart and intelligent white people that I respected and admired, and I learned from. So to me, everybody is equal, is same, and I've admired and mentored, and been mentored by Indians, blacks, and whites.
I don't necessarily know actually. I grew up in a biracial family, so to me it was normal to have a mom and a dad that were different colors, different ethnicities. I mean, I've got nieces that are Native American. My son's half Samoan. My mom's German American, and my dad obviously was mixed with numerous things. So for me to relate with one specific race, I can't relate with it. I just know what was normal to me. Having a bunch of cultures and different races around is normal.
Yeah, I can relate to Natives more just because I'm Native and other races. Yeah.
Very early on, when I first came to America, and I saw opportunities, and I saw that it was a lot harder, tougher road for me than it would have been if I was white, because I had nothing. I'm a self-starter. I'm a self-made person. So nobody ever gave me anything. So in order to start on your own, I believe your chances and odds are better if you're white rather than compared to if you're color in this country. But initially, when I was, I started working at age 17. So I would say first few years, probably after age 19 or 20, and I didn't feel that way. But early on, I did.
No, when I was younger, I might have been ashamed to be Native because people made fun of me who weren't Native and stuff. But as I grew up and matured, I'm proud to be Native. My grandparents raised me that way, and I'm very proud to be, what race I am.
Probably not. I think a lot gets handed down, and I still think that some people have it, depending on different races. There is some racism.
It's getting easier and easier as time goes by. I think we are on a path where it will get easier, and one day it will be non-existent, or almost non-existent. So I think that we have achieved and overcome so much already. We have black president. We have black athletes that are universally admired. So there are a lot of people who are able to be colorless now, and I think more and more racism is going away.
They can't, because according to statistics and articles that I read, Caucasians are quickly becoming the minority. When they refer to minority races, the Hispanic race, they're quickly going to overpopulate this world, this nation. So in time, in a decade or two, Caucasian people will be the minority. It'll be the other way around.
No. I think that's always going to be an issue there, just because, even now the majority is going to be Latinos. Well, they have so much of racism to deal with themselves, and they're the majority people going forward. So I think, unfortunately, there's always going to be some form of racism, just because you're looking at different groups of people with different religious, with different lifestyles. to sit here and say, well, my way is better than yours, it's always going to be that way, and then when you put race into it as well, I think that is just something, unfortunately, that can never be sidetracked. I don't think you can overlook it, It doesn't matter even if you've got, kids, so many kids are mixed and biracial and triracial and everything nowadays, but unfortunately, behind closed doors, you can still be closed-minded and still hear bad words and still hear things that, unfortunately, I think will always be around. It's been around since the Jim Crow days. It's been around since the Civil Rights days. Here it is in 2014, and you still have, you've got young African-American kids using the N-word, because it's popularized, and that's kind of a form of racism 40, 50 years later. So I don't think necessarily it will ever go away, but I think it might be scaled down. I hope it will be scaled down, but I think until people are just educated and understand the past and why that happened, I don't think you can go forward. That's my opinion.
After conducting these interviews, it became evident that racism in itself varies in magnitude for people in different socioeconomic classes. But racism in general continues to be in effect for all people of color, despite their socioeconomic class. Amin, who claims racism decreased as he grew wealthier, believes in the eventual end of racism, while Robette and Iris did not believe in this change. This raises a question we have yet to answer: whether wealth would truly lessen racism for all people of color. Perhaps money and success would force racists to respect people of color, or maybe this would give rise to further hate towards people of color. After all the conversation, what do you think? Can we overcome discrimination, whether it's racist or otherwise, and mature into the quintessential society?